3 young Muslim Americans were brutally murdered in Chapel Hill earlier this year. Americans of all faith rallied around that community. And obviously tonight our prayers remain with Charleston and Mother Emanuel Church. As Americans, we insist that nobody should be targeted because of who they are or what they look like, who they love, how they worship. We stand united against these hateful acts.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the president speaking at in celebration of Ramadan yesterday. In the same breath, he brought up the shooting of 3 Muslims in North Carolina, I believe that was, over a parking spot, which has yet to be adjudicated. I mean, we haven't heard in a court of law what's been decided there. Compare that to what happened in the church in South Carolina. I can't even fathom it. Joining us now is Ron Christie, CEO of Christie Strategies, former special assistant to President George W. Bush, author of, among other books, Acting White. Hello, Ron.
Steve, good to see you, my friend.
What possesses this man? And then he went on to talk, certainly he was at the proper venue for it, but then he went on to talk about how Americans don't understand Muslims in many cases, blah, blah, blah. But how do you bring up the killing of those 3 Muslim students, which the assailant claims it was over a parking spot, compared to what happened at the church?
This president of the United States, more than any that we've ever had in the 43 before him, panders to those who he believes are his political constituency, rather than rallying Americans under our flag and the unique environment that we have in this country, which is called the American citizenry and the American experience. You are absolutely right, Steve. For goodness sakes, from the news accounts that I've heard, this was a long simmering dispute between 2 folks over a parking spot in Chapel Hill, South Carolina, that has nothing at the outset, nothing at this point that leads me to believe it had anything to do with race, anything to do with ethnicity, or anything to do with religion. But to put all that together in the same sentence and then equate that to what was going on in Charleston, I think is more reprehensible conduct and commentary by this president.
I think blacks around the country should be especially offended, for crying out loud. I mean, I just don't get it. All right, let's move on. And you wrote a piece that has gone totally viral at thedailybeast.com about, well, titled was "Why Won't the GOP Do the Right Thing on the Confederate Flag?" Do you think they're doing the right thing for the most part now?
For the most part, you know, sometimes you have to take what you can get, Steve. And over the weekend, you heard people say, well, it's a state rights issue. Well, I'm not going to wade into it. Better let South Carolina. No. This flag was put up by the Democratic governor, Fritz Hollings, in 1962 on top of the Capitol dome there in Columbia. And I think it was long since time that this was removed, not only from the Capitol complex, but it should be in a museum. And I think that the GOP, in our inclusiveness, in our willingness to accept Americans of all stripes, all ethnicities, all religions, because we're Americans, should take a stand and say, that flag was so divisive to so many, we need to take that darn thing down.
Now, Ron, the media and the Democrats have somehow made this into a Republican-Democrat issue and made the Confederate flag into a Republican responsibility. As you just correctly pointed out, it was put up there by a Democratic governor. It was taken down by a Republican governor, put on the plaza, and now it's been taken down and gone away by a Republican governor. I think Republicans, and I hate to bring politics into it, but the other side is doing it, need to educate the public on who voted for the civil rights legislation and who didn't, and in what percentage, and which governors flew the flag, most notably in Arkansas, because just before we went on the air, Hillary finally opened her mouth and weighed in and said, oh, it represents racism, it shouldn't fly in South Carolina, it shouldn't fly anywhere. But Bill Clinton not only flew it, he signed Confederate Flag Day into law. So Republicans need to go on the offensive here.
But they're so behind the times, and I've been railing about this for years. You and I have talked about this for a long time. Republicans seem to get in that fetal ball and they curl up and go, oh my goodness, I can't say anything about race because they're going to call me racist. Well, you know what, GOP? They're calling you racist now. They're saying all this stuff that goes unaddressed, unanswered, and frankly, rather than looking at this as something that we should cower about, we should educate the American people about the facts. Who voted for the Voting Rights Act of '64? Who voted for the Civil Rights Act? The Voting Rights Act of '64, the Civil Rights Act. All these things that Republicans have led, all these things where the Democrats fought this tooth and nail, and yet Republicans are now the ones standing accused of racism, and they're looking around going, oh, why don't people like us? Wake up.
Al Gore's father voted against it. Of course, William Fulbright, the Southern Manifesto, the man Bill Clinton called his hero and mentor. And Bill Clinton defended Robert Byrd for joining the KKK, saying he was trying to get elected. You know what? If Carly Fiorina's husband had been governor and flew the Confederate flag and signed it into law and defended Robert Byrd and called Fulbright his husband, oh boy.
Oh, it would have been lights out. Her candidacy would have been over. The New York Times would have been editorializing that she needs to go. She has a very troubled past as far as race and racism goes. But it's good to be a Democrat, because if you're a Democrat, you can have a racist checkered past. You can support racist positions. No problem. If you're a Republican, you try to do the right thing. Oh, well, they're just racist.
Yep.
Double standard.
Ron, it's a sick world in which we live, but thank you very much. Always good to talk to you. Ron Christie, ladies and gentlemen. All right, folks, up next, the very highly acclaimed Malzberg panel. But first, Newsmax wants to send one lucky couple on a 7-day Silver Sea cruise to the Caribbean. And they want to do it this winter, which is unfortunately right around the corner. This luxury cruise aboard the Silver Wind is the trip of a lifetime. To win, you need to enter. And to enter our sweepstakes, visit newsmax.com/sweepstakes. That's newsmax.com/sweepstakes. I know Ron Christie's doing that right now. And good luck.